All right. This week we have our third exam, and I really want to make sure that we don't need the reflection and the extra points this time because everybody comes a little more prepared. And a big part of that for this unit is StatCrunch, becoming comfortable and knowing which commands to use. So just remember, for Chapter 7, you have to be able to use the normal calculator. So StatCalc, the normal calculator, where you're looking at you enter the mean, the standard deviation, and you look at the probability of being less than a value, greater than a value, between. In Chapter 8, also, you can have the normal probability, but you might be looking at the distribution of a sample mean, and so you have to be careful that the standard deviation in those problems is sigma, the population standard deviation, divided by the square root of n, the square root of the sample size. So be careful for those. You also could have a question about a probability of a sample proportion. That was from 8.2. So those are all different ways that you can use the normal calculator. Also in Chapter 9, we have all the different confidence intervals. And so for the confidence intervals, you have 4 different spots. It could be stats, z-stats, stats, t-stats. The z-stat is actually rarely used. That's the one if you're finding a confidence interval for the mean and you know the population standard deviation. So that's pretty rare that you would be, your population mean would be unknown. That's why you're looking for a confidence interval for it, yet you know the population standard deviation. So the z-stat is pretty rare. The t-stat is most common. And then for proportion, there's a stat, proportion stats. And then for the standard deviation, this one doesn't have its own menu, but it does. It's just called variance stats. And you have to be careful when you do those confidence intervals with the variance stats. It's going to return a confidence interval for the variance, which is the standard deviation squared. So don't forget that detail. If you're looking for a confidence interval for the standard deviation, you have to take the square root of the variance. All right. Final thing I really need to mention is the practice sheets. Now, this is a little revealing. I've posted practice sheets for all 3 weeks, but it's been a crazy last couple of weeks for me, and I haven't posted any solutions yet. I'm recording this at 4:15 Friday, and no one has contacted me asking where the solutions are. So this, to me, is a reason why we're struggling on the tests. So the homework is good. It's good practice of the basics, but if you really want to be prepared for the tests, you have to do those practice sheets. Every week, there's a practice sheet at the bottom with actual data, looking at our education data most of the time. This time there was some other data about some college questions about the college, some of it even ECC questions. You got to get in there. You have to practice those. That is what the test is going to look like. If you don't do those practice sheets, which obviously some of you are not doing, there's no way you can get an A or B. You have to do those to really be prepared. So be sure to do those. I will work on getting solutions up, so you'll have those to practice. And there's available a practice exam with solutions that gives you an idea of the length of the exam and the types of questions. But be careful. There's a lot of different types of questions that can be asked. So I can come at normal probability from a variety of directions. So don't just assume because a question wording wasn't in that practice exam that it couldn't possibly be in the regular exam, because that is definitely possible, and that's probably going to happen. If I included every possible thing in the practice exam, it would be 40 questions long and it would take you 4 hours, right? So we're kind of doing snippets, so be careful to practice all of those different things as you prepare for this exam. Even though this is all we have this week is the exam, we're kind of expecting that 8, 10, 12 hours this week practicing, getting ready for the exam, making sure that you do your best. So that is it. Hopefully we'll do a lot better this time. Study hard, practice all those sheets, email me questions, and I will see you when we move on to Chapter 10 next week.